Welcome back to Wellness Wave Radio. Thanks for tuning in this morning to ride the wave with us. Each week our goal is to give you at least one suggestion that will make your life a little better. My name is Phil George. I'm a clinical biochemist, a certified personal trainer, and a health coach. Please remember, everything we discuss on the show is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Always seek the guidance of your medical professional. So today's show is going to be on gout, and the reason I brought it up is because actually I ran across a client. So my collaborator, Kelly Hamilton, who's an ICU nurse and also holistic nutritionist, we give a lot of seminars. In fact, if you want us to give a seminar at your location, senior center, whatever, email me, philgeorge@charter.net. I'm sure we can arrange something. I spent months giving seminars over at the senior center right here in Leicester. So if you watch the show, you may be familiar with it. But we've given this one place in Plainville. It's kind of a health center. It's pretty big actually. And we went over there and we gave a presentation. Actually, we're going to be going back. I thought the presentation went really well, but more importantly, they thought the presentation went really well. But in any event, one of the directors up there contacted me because her husband was having all of these terrible aches and pains, and his foot and ankle were swollen like a balloon and extremely painful. So we had a long phone conversation, and let me just back up. So most physicians, there's an expression. It's called allopathic medicine or Western medicine. They're straight out. I've had direct primary cares on my show. I know a lot of doctors, and I think they'll tell you the same thing. The average primary care doctor has between 2,000 and 3,000 patients. That's a lot of patients. The other thing is they have to see a lot of patients in a day. So, and again, I was on the show. I had this primary care doctor on the show, and she said, but you get between 12 and 15 minutes. The other thing is with physicians is they're actually employees of the hospital. They get a salary, okay? And so they have to kind of do what they're told. If they're saying, we really need to see more patients, they got to see more patients because they got to pay their mortgage and stuff like that, like everybody else. So there's certain things they need to do. In fact, in the state of California, if you don't follow what's called standard of care, you could actually lose your license. Good example, you come in, your cholesterol's 300. It's like, here's a statin, see you later. And they're not talking about diet, exercise. It's prescribe a drug or do a procedure. That's all they have time to do. They do not have time to sit down with you. If you get a doctor that sits down and you're not what they call a concierge doctor, which means you pay them a separate fee. Concierge doctors, direct primary care doctors, what they'll do is they basically, they'll take a fee, but they'll only accept so many patients. And in fact, these direct primary cares, concierge doctors, they can see the same day sometimes in an emergency. Unless you go to the emergency room, that's not going to happen. If you go to the emergency room, good luck with that. You got a 6-hour wait, and you're sitting there anyway. So, Western medicine right now is not in a good place. And the other problem is with Western medicine is the statistics are we pay the most of any industrialized country for medicine, and we have the worst outcome. We pay the most for the worst. If you had to see a doctor, unless you're an exceptional doctor, you know what I'm talking about. I give seminars, people, absolutely. Also read that in the state of Massachusetts, they're looking for a 10 to 14% increase next year. So you're going to be paying even more for the health insurance that you're not getting a good result on. And again, in addition to that, basically you're paying a fortune for the monthly amount you're paying, and also the other problem is also you're paying huge copays for this, copays for that, and again you're not getting the results, and this is borne out by statistics. The reason I'm telling you all this, so this individual contacted me. Her husband was in excruciating pain, leg was blown up. So I said to her, basically, I said, it sounds like gout to me. So what gout is, let me just back up. Gout, they used to call it the disease of kings, because back then people couldn't eat very healthy. So what happens, if you remember King Henry VIII, with the big drumstick, and he's got the big belly and stuff like that. So he was basically, most people couldn't afford to get. In fact, at one time it was a good thing. It was a sign of affluence if you were fat, because It means you could afford to get fat. Most people back then, they were lucky to just, have enough to eat for the day. So they call it disease of kings or the disease of the rich, because what's happening is, again, they could afford to have the gout. So again, going back, some more stories from my days in the lab. This is, I would actually, well, the doctor would diagnose it, but I knew it before he did exactly that it was gout. So I said to this woman, I said, did they do a blood test? So let me back up again. So gout is caused by a crystal called uric acid. So what they'll do is they'll do a blood test, and if it's in the blood, you get elevated uric acid. That's kind of indicator of gout. So she said to me, no, his uric acid was not elevated. So I'm like a medical detective. I want to know the root cause. I don't just want to say give him a drug and get him out of here. So I had a ton of questions. So number one, where was it? It had all the symptoms of gout, 100%. I've dealt with gout for 20, not personally, but clients and working in the lab. I see this all the time. I know all the indicators. It was like 99.99% it was gout. But the physician said to her, well, I don't think it's gout because the uric acid isn't elevated in the blood. So this is where it gets tricky. So I said to her, you can have normal uric acid and still have gout. And this is what they call the mechanism of action, the biochemical reaction. So if what happens, if you have a lot of uric acid in your blood, but you're not having gout, what happens, the gout hasn't gone into, it's usually in the big toe. It could be anywhere though. It could be in your ankle, it could be in your knuckle, it could be anywhere. But normally it goes into the big toe. And one of the reasons for that is you don't have great circulation down by your feet because your heart is pumping. It's a long way to go down to your toe. That's the furthest it can go in your body. So what happens is the heart's a pump, obviously, and it goes to your body. The way it goes back up to your veins, arteries goes down, veins go back to the heart. The way it goes back to your heart, it has to be pumped there by your muscles, like your calf muscles and even your foot muscles. It has to pump it back up to the heart. If, let's say, you don't have good muscle strength in your legs, kind of like your calf is like a mini heart, because as it contracts when you're walking, you're going to walk at some point, it's going to push the blood back up. So the reason why gout normally settles in the big toe is the furthest from the heart. So the blood has a tendency of getting pulled into that big toe, okay? So what happens is, again, you got uric acid in the blood, but they haven't detected it yet because he doesn't have gout yet. But because the blood's not getting put, it starts to pool in that big toe. And all the uric acid crystals in the blood kind of get pulled into that big toe. Hope that makes sense. So then all of a sudden, he's got the gout. But now, since most of the uric acid is coming out of his blood, it's going into the big toe. That's why it's not showing up in his blood. So in my opinion, I'm not a physician, I'm a biochemist. In my opinion, from the biochemical point of view, from the mechanism of action, the reason it's not showing up in the blood is because it's stuck in the big toe. That makes sense, and that's what I told her. So that's number one. So I believe, and I could be wrong, he could have been misdiagnosed. Now, when I was in the lab, what would happen is if you came in and your toe is blown up like that, or any joint is blown up, you have in your joints and your knee and all your joints here, it's called synovial fluid. So that's kind of like a lubricant, just like in a car. It's like a lubricant. It keeps so, you can move your arms around. If you don't have enough synovial fluid, basically what will happen is you can get, it'll get inflamed because it's not lubricated correct. So you need the synovial fluid. So in the toe, you have synovial fluid. So what happens with this uric acid, it gets caught in the synovial fluid. And what you'll see is, when they would come in, the doctor would take what's called an aspiration. They would get a needle, a big needle. You've seen syringes. They stick it in there, they pull it out, and they get a sample of the synovial fluid. They send the synovial fluid to me. I take it out. I put it in a slide. I stain the slide so I can see the crystals very well. So, all right, you want to put up the slides of those crystals so the list of viewers can see what it looks like. So then I'm looking basically at those crystals, and they have a very specific what they call morphology. Morphology just means a very specific look to them. That's the morphology of the uric acid crystals. These things look actually like needles. That's why it's so painful. Literally needles, like if you can imagine just a whole bunch of little needles sticking around, and they're pointing at the end, and that's why they're sticking. They're sticking from the inside out, okay? So that's the definitive diagnosis of uric acid. You take the crystals out of the synovial fluid, you send it to the lab says bingo. I go over to the doctor, I write up the report, I say, Doc, this person's got gout. I mean, cut and dry, no debate, done deal. So, but other things you can have like calcium oxalate crystals. That's what you find when you have kidney stones. So again, if I'm looking at a kidney stone crystal, I'll see what kind of crystal it is, and then they can give a different drug depending on what kind of crystal it is, whether it's calcium oxalate, calcium phosphate, whatever. There in the back of me, you see that? That's actually a slide. That's what I would see. I would see those crystals and the stain on there, because I use a very specific type of stain so I can see them clearly. That's what I would see. Bingo, you got gout. So then I asked this woman, I said, did they do, and I explained to her what I just explained to you, the aspiration of the synovial fluid. They never did the aspiration. I'm like, duh. I mean, this is like medicine 101. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why in the world they didn't want to do it. She says they're going to send them in for an MRI on the foot. And I don't know what that's going to show. It may show, it may not. But the simplest solution is basically do an aspiration. I mean, I don't know why they didn't do that. So she's going to contact her primary care and ask the primary care to do an aspiration. Not a big deal, because then they can do something about it. But to give you an idea of how painful gout is, if you have gout and if you're in bed, if the sheet on the bed even touches it, you're in excruciating pain. You swell up a balloon on your ankle and your toe. It's swollen. The pain is, because remember those crystals, that's poking from the inside out. All those crystals are poking at you from the inside. Very, very painful. The other thing I asked her, now we all have different genes. That's why everybody's different. So different genes, the famous one is the BRCA gene that Angelina Jolie has, that have much higher incident of breast cancer. And there's something called an ApoE4 gene, and that's an indicator of Alzheimer's disease. So when I give seminars and I talk to clients, we're all dealt at different hands in life. Sometimes we get good hands, some good cards, sometimes you get bad cards. So you're just dealt a different hand. So everybody's different. So there is, in genes, and there's a fancy word here, it's called a polymorphism, also called a SNP, which stands for single nucleotide polymorphism. All that means is it's not a full-blown gene, it's a little part of your DNA. And if you have this, you have a predisposition for certain things. So there are predispositions for gout. Okay, so you may have dealt a bad hand. So if you eat the wrong kinds of foods, you're a lot more susceptible to coming down with gout than the average person. So he's had gout before. And again, I'm like, duh, why? They should have thought of this. So the whole point is, again, there's that usually in the big toe, that's going to blow up, it's going to be red, it's going to be extremely painful. You're not going to be able to wear socks, you're not going to be able to wear shoes, the pain's going to be too bad. You're going to have a hard time sleeping, it causes all kinds of problems. So I don't know what his diet's like, but basically the two things that kind of initiate this gout is basically something called purines. Now, purines are in meat, and very specifically, it's in organ meats like liver, kidney, stuff like that. So if you're eating a lot of organ meats, which by the way are really healthy for you, this could lead to it. Purines are a precursor to uric acid. They break down and they go into uric acid. And again, if he has that particular gene, what happens, they cannot, what they call methylate, they cannot methylate very well purines, which means that it turns into uric acid and your body can't clear it because they don't have a good methylation pattern. Just methylation just means how you process different chemicals. The other thing, and in fact, I read a book quite a while ago. It's called Dropping Acid, and I forgot. Maybe it was David Perlmutter. He could have been. It was somebody anyway. He wrote a book, and his big thing was it's not so much the purines. It's basically fructose. So fructose is from fruit, obviously. It's not the same as sugar. In fact, what they did, they put out for a long time. They were telling people with diabetes to have fructose. Fructose, even though it's a sugar, it's metabolized entirely differently than glucose. So glucose, it stimulates the production of insulin from your pancreas, and it goes into your cells. And obviously, diabetics have a problem with glucose, so they want to keep off glucose. Now, fructose is not metabolized. It doesn't increase insulin, and doesn't. And if they took a blood sugar on you, it wouldn't show any increase, because fructose goes directly into the liver, and what it does is it's stored into the liver, and it's turned into triglycerides, which is basically a lipid, and what'll happen, it'll build up. But again, because it's metabolized in the liver, and if it's not processed correctly, what'll happen is, again, it'll initiate this uric acid cycle. So this doctor that wrote this book, Dropping Acid, he says the big problem is fructose. So she asked me, well, he's eating fruit. Now, fruit is different than fruit juice, okay? Because fruit juice is pretty much pure fructose. You may have heard of something called high fructose corn syrup, like they put in Coke. So that overloads your liver big time. There's a big problem now in America. It's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Because what happens is if you have too much fructose in there, again, your body is turning that into triglycerides, which is a fat. So you're getting fat in the liver. But in the meantime, you're still eating bad food. You're eating glucose. You're eating Twinkies, brownies, cupcakes, all that other good stuff. Your body can't metabolize. Your body cannot metabolize the fructose in your liver, so it stays there. It converts it over to triglycerides, which are fat. Then you get what they call non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Okay, this also goes into the whole thing with uric acid and with gout. So there's a lot of reasons not to be drinking pure, high fructose corn syrup or even fruit juice. There's going to be an exception to the rule, and in 1 second, I'll get into that in a second. But the problem, again, with the drinking pure fruit, it's not what they call chelated. It's not bound to anything. So I said, there's no problem with him eating the fruit. I'm not worried about that. Just don't give him any juice, any straight juice, except, I'm going to give an exception in a minute, for this very specific type of juice. So I told her that, so that it's fine, because what happens, the fruit with the fructose attached to it is attached to fiber. So it's attached to it. So when you eat the fruit, it releases the fructose very, very slowly into the body. Your body can easily metabolize that without a problem. So fruit is good, fruit juice is bad, okay, because it's pure fructose. So that's something to keep in mind. However, there are they found out that there are two particular fruits, fruit juices. One's a fruit juice, one's a vegetable juice. And I forgot the name of the very specific compound inside of there, but something called tart cherry juice, not to be confused with dark cherry juice. It's called tart cherry juice. In fact, what I did is, you can email me, somebody with gout. If they have a recollection to come down with gout, email me, because you want to be taking this juice like daily, because it has a very specific chemical in it that binds to the uric acid and gets it the heck out of your body. So it's going to help prevent it. It's also going to help you cut down on it, because it's going to get more of that uric acid out of your body. So it's tart cherry juice. In fact, what I did is I went to this particular supermarket, and I took a picture of it because it's organic. I said, this is what you want. And she said she bought it. So I emailed her yesterday and I said, give me feedback. I want to know if this is working or not. In fact, when I did my radio show at WCRN, I talked about this, and I had 2 callers call in talking about this, and one of them specifically mentioned the tart cherry juice. The other one that has is also a vegetable juice, and those 2 together they do a lot of good things. So you've probably heard of celery stalks, right? There used to be people that have celery stalks, eat it, put peanut butter on it, and they used to eat the celery. Well, you can also get celery juice. Celery juice is very good to prevent gout and also to relieve the symptoms of gout. I had one caller call in and said, what's even better, and I didn't know this, so I'll get some smart listeners on my show. So they called in and said celery seeds are actually even more powerful. So you can just munch away on the celery seeds, and I don't even know where you get those, but I'm sure that he said they're out there. So it's the tart cherry juice and the celery seeds. Those are good prophylactically to prevent getting it. So if you know somebody that has had gout over and over again, you can email me. You can email me, philgeorge@charter.net, and I can basically I'll send you the studies on this because this is all pretty well researched. But again, what I like to say to clients and on my show, you've got to be the CEO of your own health. Hopefully I can help you. And again, I've teamed up with Kelly. She's Kelly Hamilton. She's an ICU nurse. She also is she's got a degree in nursing. She's got a bachelor's degree in nursing, but she also is a holistic nutritionist. And the other thing I want to give a little bit of a rant about is in terms of nutritionists. Again, nutritionists are kind of like doctors. They have to kind of do what they're told. So if you've been to a hospital or school lately and seen what they feed you in a hospital, I mean, they're giving you sugary stuff and things like that. I'll give you even a better example. I have a relative right now, and she's in a nursing home, and she's got COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. She's on oxygen all the time. And they got to load her up with a lot of drugs. So at one time her weight was okay, but because what they're loading up with all of these drugs, it caused her to balloon, and she is huge now, so she's obese. So I went to visit her at this nursing home, and what do they have on her tray? They got donuts, they got candy bars. I'm like, God, I mean, you don't have to be a nutritionist to know that's not good. But if you go to, I had one cousin that went up, and she really knew a lot about health. She's really a very healthy person, and she told me, you don't believe what they try to give me in this hospital. It's unbelievable how bad it is. In fact, a lot of people, what they'll do, I had one. Her name is she's a journalist, and she writes on science. Her name is J.J. Virgin. And what happened with her son, unfortunately, wound up getting hit by a car, and came down with concussion, a lot of problems. And again, she knows, like I know a lot of different scientists, so I can, I can just call them up and ask them. So Daniel Amen, probably the number one, neuroscientist in the country, if not the world, he does a lot of these different kind of brain scans and stuff. So she called him to come in and check out her son and to consult with the neurologist and stuff at the hospital. And so he said to her, the first thing you want to do not feed him any hospital food. So she had a big sign over his bed said no hospital food. And so this Daniel Amen, again, he went in there and looked at it, did the brain scan and everything else. So what they normally do at hospitals, they'll give you these like Diet Coke, stuff like that, with these artificial sweeteners. These artificial sweeteners are really, a lot of them are neurotoxins. They hurt your brain. The kids already got brain damage, and they're giving them neurotoxins on top of it, because this is what they do. This is the protocol. This is what they go by. So obviously she brought in all of her own food and the rest of the stuff. Fortunately, I haven't been in the hospital very often, but when I did have to spend time in the hospital, I did not touch hospital food. I had my wife bring in all my stuff from home, and I ate that, or I wouldn't eat at all. I'd rather fast than eat hospital food. I don't want to put any toxins in my body. So again, you've got to be careful what you're eating. So even if you don't have gout, again, if you're eating, right now we have an obesity epidemic in this country. When I was growing up, there's two types of diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, it's basically an autoimmune disease. You grow up with it, and basically you just can't produce insulin. You've got to take insulin exogenously from the outside, to be able to metabolize things. The second type of diabetes is what they call type 2. Type 2 is a metabolic disease, and that's caused by bad lifestyle, basically. When I was growing up, they used to call it adult onset diabetes because no kids had it. There's no reason a child should have type 2 diabetes because, they should be eating healthy. But what's happened in the last 50 years? What happens, you've got this big onset of all these sugary cereals. Food manufacturers aren't dumb. They know if the kid is screaming, "Mommy, mommy, I want Captain Crunch, I want all of these sugary cereals," the parent's probably going to give in. So what's happened in the last 50 years is this big onset of all these processed foods, these sugary foods. Because there's a really good book called Nature Wants Us to Be Fat. We're hardwired to take in a lot of calories because only in the last 100 years last 10 years, we have DoorDash, we have this, we have that. We have all of these sugary cereals and sugary foods all over the place. So for the last, we've been around for millions of years, but we had to go long periods of time without eating. We would get up, we'd have to go out and kill something. We may go days without eating. So our body is used to burning fat. But anytime we run across a lot of healthy food, a lot of fruit, honey, stuff like that, we would gorge ourselves on it because we got to look for that long period of time. We would go without eating. So our body is hardwired to store fat. Just like the bear before he hibernates, the bear will get up, will eat all of these fruits and stuff like that. Eat as much as they possibly can, in order to basically, get ready for the winter. So we're the same way. So it's not your lack of free will. It's hardwired into us to eat a lot of calories because we're anticipating the long, hard winter, and we want to build up that fat store. Unfortunately, or fortunately, when you look at it, we have all of these healthy foods, these processed foods available as 24/7. What do you see? You go into Dunkin' Donuts, you go into Krispy Kreme, you got all these, and we love it. Interesting story. When I used to go to Dunkin' Donuts, I wouldn't eat anything there, but I maybe would have the coffee, which I shouldn't have done either. I don't go there anymore. But anyway, don't sue me, Dunkin' Donuts. And every time the Patriots win a game, along with your coffee, you would get a free donut. But I knew enough not to eat the donut. But I felt kind of bad because these kids are there. I felt like maybe I should get the donut and give it to this little kid. But I said, why do I want to poison this kid with the donut? But what happens with grandparents, even parents, when you bring the kid in someplace, you want to give them a treat, right? You want to give them a donut. You want to give them this. You want to give them that. And this is what is contributing to basically childhood obesity in the country. Art will attest to this. When we were growing up, we had maybe one kid in the whole class that was overweight. Now, I mean, I get pictures when I do slides. Back in the 50s, everybody's lean, and now most people are overweight. Same classroom. Look at the beaches. Look at the beaches back then. I mean, you look at a beach from the 50s. I have pictures of that. Go back on Google and just look for pictures. Entirely different thing. So what's happened, even with the gout, everything else, you don't want to be eating a lot of fructose, a lot of high sugary foods because it's very, very unhealthy for you. They're also calling Alzheimer's now type 3 diabetes because it's messing up your brain. So sugar, fructose is doing a job on you, okay? So email me, philgeorge@charter.net, and again, if you have any questions, how to eat. If you want to meet, we'll do a free consult. So Kelly and I teamed up, and if you want to get healthy, Kelly and I team up. So what I do is I sit down with you, I look over your lab work, I do this, and this. Then I turn you over to Kelly, ICU nurse, certified holistic nutritionist. She'll do some magic for you, and we work together on this. So we, it's a way to do it. So again, you're paying a fortune for your health insurance, and you're not getting the results you want. I'm sure they're not telling you what to eat. And so Kelly and I teamed up. I think we make a good team. We give a lot of seminars. If you want us to come out to where you work and you want to get your employees healthy, or you want to get healthy, we do seminars for businesses. We do seminars for senior centers. We do seminars for all kinds of different places. So I have slideshows and all this fancy stuff we do. And we give out prizes because, New Chicken now is one of my sponsors. I get gift cards from them. And basically, we give them out as prizes. So we're running out of time. Coming to the end of the show. Again, feel free to email me, philgeorge@charter.net. And if you want me to cover any specific topic, like gout, like this other woman, I'll cover that. If you want to talk about, again, exercise. I'm a certified personal trainer. I'll talk about that. I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. And if you have any questions, email me. A lot of times, I won't mention your name. I'll mention it on the show in terms of, I get a question from a viewer, and this is the question. If you have the question, I almost guarantee you everybody else has the same exact question. So again, email me, philgeorge@charter.net. Oh, by the way, the show is actually syndicated nationwide. So what we're going to do with this show, I turn it over to Dreamvisions 7. They take it out and they'll turn it into a YouTube video. So I have all my content is online. Email me, philgeorge@charter.net. Or if you just type in Wellness Wave Radio, any of your browsers, you'll see all these shows are on YouTube. I got podcasts. All my radio shows are turned over to the podcast. So actually, not only are we syndicated nationwide, we're now syndicated worldwide. Got some pretty good news. They track it. If you remember the Nielsen ratings, like for TV, they track how many people watch it. We have that also for all my media, and I get a monthly update. So we've only been doing this actually on the syndication for a year. I just passed my year this month, and in only a year we now have almost 70,000 subscribers. So that's a lot. We're growing 6,000 subscribers month over month. So I think I'm doing something right because people are tuning in and they're staying and they're listening to this stuff. So again, you can look at all my old episodes. I have pretty much a program on every single thing. So you can tune in on that and check it out. Even better, email me, philgeorge@charter.net, and we have a lot of different seminars coming up and stuff. So thanks for tuning in, and hope any of the information was helpful for you, because the goal of the show, give you at least one suggestion. Hopefully I give you more than one suggestion, but guarantee one. And if I didn't give you one, you get your money back. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you next week. One of the most common questions I'm asked as a biochemist and health coach is, what are the best supplements to take? Choosing supplements is a tricky business. Many companies have poor quality control and questionable ingredients. In the past, I had to send clients to several different websites. I am now able to offer one-stop shopping for all the quality brands I recommend, with no shipping cost and a lower price in most cases. Just email me, philgeorge@charter.net, for a free consult.